Jai Sai Ram, Sri Sai Satcharitra, Chapter 28, Part 1. Sparrows Drawn to Shirdi. Lakshmi Chand, Burhanpur Lady, Megha. Preliminary. Sai is not finite or limited. He dwells in all beings, from ants and insects to the god Brahma. Jai Sai Ram, Sri Sai Satcharitra, Chapter 28, Part 1. Sparrows Drawn to Shirdi. 1. Lakshmi Chand. 2. Burhanpur Lady. 3. Megha. Preliminary. Sai is not finite or limited. He dwells in all beings, from ants and insects to the god Brahma. He pervades all. Sai was well versed in the knowledge of Vedas as well as in the science of self-realization. As he was proficient in both these, he was well fitted to be the Sadguru. Anyone, though learned, but not able to awaken the disciples and establish them in self-realization, does not deserve to be called a Sadguru. Generally, the father gives birth to the body, and death invariably follows life. But Sadguru does away with both life and death. So, he is more kind and merciful than anybody. Sai Baba often said that let his man devotee be at any distance, 1,000 courses away from him. He will be drawn to Shirdi like a sparrow with a thread tied in its feet. This chapter describes the stories of 3 such sparrows. Lala Lakshmi Chand. This gentleman was first serving in the railways and afterwards in Sri Venkateswara Press in Bombay, and thereafter in the firm of Messrs. Raleigh Brothers as a munshi, that is clerk. He got the contact of Baba in 1910. 1 or 2 months before Christmas, he saw in his dream at Santa Cruz an old man with beard standing and surrounded by his bhaktas. Some days later, he went to the house of his friend, Mr. Dattatreya Manjunath Bijur, to hear the kirtan of Das Ganu. It was always the practice of Das Ganu to keep Baba's picture in front of the audience while making kirtans. Lakshmi Chand was surprised to see that the features of the old man he saw in the dream tallied exactly with those of the features in the pictures, and thus he came to the conclusion that the old man he saw in his dream was Sai Baba himself. The sight of this picture, Das Ganu's Kirtan, and the life of the Saint Tukaram, on which Das Ganu was discoursed, all these things made a deep impression in his mind, and he pined to go to Shirdi. It's always the experience of the Bhaktas that God always helps them in their search for Sadguru and other spiritual endeavors. That very night at 8 p.m., a friend named Shankar Rao knocked at his door and asked him whether he would accompany him to Shirdi. His joy knew no bounds, and he at once decided to go to Shirdi. He borrowed ₹15 from his cousin, and after making due preparations left for Shirdi. In the train, he and his friend Shankar Rao did some bhajan, sang religious songs, and inquired about Sai Baba with some fellow passengers, 4 Mohammedans, who were returning to their place near Shirdi. They all told them that Sai Baba was a great saint, living in Shirdi for many years. Then, when they reached Kopargan, he wanted to buy some good guavas for offering to Baba, but he was so much entrapped with the scenery and sights there that he forgot to purchase them. When they were nearing Shirdi, he was reminded of the guavas. Just then he saw an old woman with guava basket on her head running after the tanga. The tanga was stopped and he gladly purchased some select fruits when the woman said, "Take all the rest and offer them on my behalf to Baba." The fact that he had intended to purchase guavas and that he had forgotten to do so, the old woman encounter, and her devotion to Baba, all these were surprise to both friends. And Lakshmi Chand thought in his mind that the old woman might be some relation of the old man he saw in his dream. Then they drove on and came near Shirdi. And seeing the flags on the masjid, they saluted them. With puja materials in hand, they then went to the masjid and worshipped Baba with due formalities. Lakshmi Chand was much moved and was extremely happy to see Baba. He was enwrapped with Baba's feet as a bee with sweet smelling lotus. Then Baba spoke as follows: Jai Sai Ram.